God establishes a union between believers and Jesus Christ such that when Christ died, believers died.
What is our relationship to sin if our union with Christ means we died when He died? In this episode of Light and Truth, John Piper turns to Romans 6, 1-14 to examine the profound implications of our union with Christ and how it transforms our relationship with sin. This sermon was originally preached at Bethlehem Baptist Church on September 24th, 2000.
Verse 1. What shall we say then? Are we to continue in sin so that grace may increase? You know what raised this problem? Justification is so free. Getting right with God is so easy. It's dangerously easy. It looks like we should go on sinning so that the grace of forgiveness and imputed righteousness would it be exalted in my sinning. That's what it looked like. And so somebody asks, and Paul repeats the question, should we sin that the grace of forgiveness would just abound all the more? And his answer is in verse 2, may it never be. And if you ask him, why not? It seems to follow. He says, how shall we who died to sin still live in it? Rhetorical question. It's a statement. Those who've died to sin can't live in it. Your question betrays a fundamental misunderstanding of how you are connected to Jesus. You can't go on living in it. So I just want to, in this message this morning, ask two questions. One, in what sense have you, Christian, died? And two, in what sense and to what extent are you, Christian, free from sin? Now, daily. Those are my two questions. In what sense are we dead to sin? Now, he's talking to believers here. We know that when he says we died to sin, or how should we who died to sin still live in it? He's talking to believers. We know that because of what he says about baptism. And baptism is baptism into Christ. And baptism is what you do when you believe. Here's my answer to the question. In what sense have you died to sin? I get the answer from verse 5. For if we have become united with Him, with Christ, in the likeness of His death, certainly we shall also be in the likeness of His resurrection. Now, I just want you to see the phrase, we have become united with Him. 1 Corinthians 1:30 says, from Him we are in Christ Jesus. The NASB translates it, by His doing we are in Christ Jesus. Here's my way of stating it. God establishes a union between believers and Jesus Christ such that when Christ died, believers died. And that's my answer to the question, in what sense am I dead to sin? Answer, spiritually, God, in a way only He can do, has united you to Christ. There's a union between you and Christ in God's mind and way of reckoning. And as unified with Christ, as verse 5 says, when He died, you died with Him. His death was your death. Confirm this in verse 6. Knowing this, that our old self was crucified with Him. There it is again. So where did I die, Paul, when you say I died to sin? When and where did I die? Answer, Golgotha, 30 AD. Believer, you died with Christ. Confirm it again in verse 8. Now, if we have died with Christ, we believe that we shall live with Him. There it is again. So you got died with Christ in verse 8, crucified with Christ in verse 6, united with Him in His death, verse 5, and we died to sin in verse 2. And they all mean the same thing, and they interpret one another. So, my answer to my first question is, you can't go on in sin because you've died to sin. That is, you were united to Christ such that when He died, you died with Him. And what was true for Him is now regarded as true for you. His death is your death. Now, this should not come as a surprise to us who have read verses 12 to 21 of chapter 5. Because you remember what happened there? Adam is held up as one person. Christ is held up as another person. And those who are united to Adam have the guilt and condemnation of Adam imputed to them. And those who are united to Christ have the righteousness and acceptance of Christ imputed to them. So already we have seen in the Adam-Christ typology of chapter 5 this tremendous truth of union with Christ. And now here's the new thing in chapter 6. Not only does our union with Christ provide the foundation for our justification, that is, our getting right with God and being declared acceptable and innocent, it also now provides the foundation of our sanctification, our becoming holy, becoming like Him. That's my answer to question number 1. Now, question number 2. In what sense do we no longer sin? Back to the question. How shall we who died still live in it? It's a statement. You who have died can't still live in it. Dead men don't sin. Now here's the key question, right, in everybody's mind. Yikes. I sin. So am I not a Christian? Is this teaching perfectionism? That's the question we want answered, right? I want that answered. I want to know, does Paul, the inspired apostle, believe that when you become a Christian and die with Christ, you don't sin anymore? I'd be in big trouble if that were true, which means I'm in a dangerous situation because I might want to read my experience in here, right? So I come off okay. So you test. I don't think he's teaching perfectionism. I don't think Paul means that when you become a Christian, you have decisively died in such a way that you never sin again in this world. Notice the commands of verses 11, 12, and 13. Verse 11. Even so, consider yourselves dead to sin. That's a command to wage war on who you are. Be in conflict with an old identity. Verse 12. Therefore, do not let sin reign in your mortal body. Why would he call us to wage war on an old sovereign if there were no war to be fought, but we were automatically sinless because we died with Jesus? I don't think these commands would make any sense. Third, verse 13. Do not go on presenting your members, the members of your body, as instruments of righteousness. Don't go on presenting them to your old slave master. Stop doing that. He's talking to Christians. Don't do that anymore. Stop that. So what I hear in these three commands, 11, 12, 13, is make war on sin, make war on old impulses that crop up, make war on the old powers that begin to take hold on you, and fight them. And that's not the language of sinless perfection. That's the language of war. And I believe Christian life is war. So that's my answer to the second question. So let me step back now and sum it up. Just these two questions. Question number one. Christian, do you understand? Have you got a category in your mind and a place in your affection? You know, we said with the fighter verse, how precious to me are your thoughts. These are some of them. Are these precious to you? I'm asking you right now, are these thoughts precious to you? And for them to be precious, you have to get them a little bit. You have to get them. You can't just have words going in your ear and then you forget the words. That's not what's precious. Sound isn't precious. Reality is precious. And reality is borne along by thoughts. And thoughts are enlivened from the Scriptures by the Holy Spirit. So what's precious here? What is this dying? Do you understand? And the answer was, we are unified with Christ. God simply, arbitrarily creates and establishes a spiritual unity. I'm sure there's mystery here that we can't begin to delve to the bottom of, but there it is. We are one with Jesus Christ. So that when He died, we say, I was crucified with Him. We say, I died with Him. We say, I was united with Him in the likeness of His death. We say, I died to sin in Christ. So that, let me put it this way, my truest position and my truest identity is Christ and me in union with Him, sinlessly perfect, freed from power and freed from guilt of sin. That's my truest identity and my truest position. Keep that in your mind. And my answer to the second question was, to what extent are we dead to sin? Or to what extent do we sin if we have died to sin? And here I want to develop, in conclusion, just a simple little already not yet model for you. You know this. May not have used those words, but you know this. Here's what we're saying is, if my truest position and my truest identity is that I am sinless in Christ Jesus, His righteousness is made over to me, I have died in Him, the power and the guilt of sin are totally broken, and in Him there is no power over me to condemn me or to cause me to stumble. That's my truest identity. The question is, how much of that true identity can I have now? In what measure is it already, and in what measure is it not yet? All right? Now, I think this text gives 3 alreadys and 1 not yet. Number 1, we are already justified. Having been justified by faith, we have peace with God. Chapter 5, verse 1. Justification is fundamentally, decisively a past event. It cannot be improved upon. It doesn't get better because the righteousness of Christ imputed to us does not improve. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. If His righteousness is mine, it's mine today, mine tomorrow, mine forever. You can't get it better. Already I'm justified because I'm united with Christ, who is my righteousness. Second, already, the power of my slave master sin is severed. He is not my master anymore. I may do things he likes. I may stumble into sin. I may act like I'm his slave from time to time. But the power by which he held me captive before I died with Jesus, he does not have anymore. And thirdly, already therefore I am able to make progress in holiness. Little by little, day by day, by faith, laying hold on all that God is for me in Jesus, I am enabled to get a measure of victory over my sin and the temptation that besets me every day. Those are three alreadys. The one not yet of this perfect position and identity is perfection. And I can't tell you ahead of time to what degree God, the Holy Spirit, may be pleased to bring you toward perfection. I just don't think you ever get there in this life. And I'll give you one little clue why I don't think you ever get there. And here I'll close perhaps with this beautiful parallel from Philippians 3:12. You know, sometimes lights go on for us and in our hearts when we're struggling with a difficult text and some categories of thought that may be new for us, like I'm dead and yet I'm alive, and I died then in Christ, and therefore positionally and in identity I am perfect in Him and without sin in Him, and yet here I'm sinning. How can I handle all that? Sometimes lights go on for us when we hear another text that says exactly the same reality with very different words. And Philippians 3:12 is one of those spectacular parallels with this reality. So here's what it says. Philippians 3:12. Paul says, "Not that I have already obtained or am already perfect." So he refuses to be a perfectionist here. Not that I have already attained or am already perfect. Well, then how does he describe life? What is life for the Christian? Here's what he says. "But I press on so that I may lay hold of that for which also I was laid hold of by Christ Jesus." That's a great sentence. If you get this verse, I'll say it again. Not that I have already obtained or am already perfect, but what do? I see my perfect position out there. I see my perfect identity in Christ out there. It has already happened in history. On Golgotha, 30 AD, I died, I rose, I'm united with Christ in heaven. I see it. What do? I press on. Now next week, in this pulpit, I'm going to try to fill out all those commands. Because I think when Paul says, I press on, he's simply saying, I reckon myself dead. I don't present my members to ungodliness. I do the commands of chapter 6. So come back and we'll talk about the practical. What does that mean not to present your members? What does it mean to reckon yourself dead? But here's the way Paul says it. I grasp, I reach out and I take hold of. Somebody asked me after the service, I am going to finish this verse. Somebody asked after the first service, do we do anything? I said, yes! Here it is. I reach out, I take hold of that for which He took hold of me. My reaching is because He reached in and took me. He who began a good work in you will complete it to the day of Christ. That's chapter 1, verse 6, chapter 3, verse 12. I grasp and take hold of my reality, my identity, my Christ, my righteousness, my perfection, because He has taken me for it. Now that's categories of thought that are very precious. How precious to me are thy thoughts. And if you get that, and you spend the next 30 years trying to understand it deeper and deeper, you're going to be a sage. You're going to be a redwood. And when waves of tremendous pain and suffering and persecution are breaking over the church, people will sit at your feet. Tell me who I am. Tell me how to live the Christian life. Help me understand my sinning. Am I new or am I not new? Help me. I don't get it. We need hundreds and thousands of people like that.
This is Light and Truth, God-centered preaching to help you see Christ clearly and treasure Him truly. I'm your host, Dan Kruver. Thank you for listening. On our next episode, John Piper continues our 12-part series, The Sanctified Life, with a sermon titled, Baptized into Christ's Death. I hope you'll join us. For more resources, visit desiringgod.org.